So please do stick around. That's going to be immediately after the film. I know it's going to be a little bit late, but please do stick around because it's really fabulous for us to have Katrine here for the UK premiere of this film. So now over to Katrine to introduce the film.
Thank you. I won't say that much now. I'll probably say a lot after, or you will have a lot of questions. I will just tell you that this wasn't a film that I wanted to make. It was a film that I had to make, or it ended up being a film I had to make. And it has created quite a blast in Denmark and in several other countries. And I'm sure you understand why when you have seen it. So I can't promise that you will like it, but I can promise that you will never forget it. So yeah, enjoy. By coincidence, I was commissioned to do a TV series for Danish television about parenting. And I was advertising for adoptive parents. And then I came in contact with Henriette. And when we started talking, and when she told me that her children-to-be was still living with their biological parents, and she showed me a picture of the mother with Macho, I just, it kind of, yeah, it did something to my picture of where I thought adopted children was babies in a box on a street. Mm-hmm. So I just went down there I had to document that, but I still thought that it would be with a happy ending. I thought, because I was told by the adoption agency that they were dying. Mm-hmm. And so I came down there, and then I found two people who they didn't look dying. Mm-hmm. To me, and they had 3 other children, which the adoption agency, they didn't know in Denmark, or they hadn't told me. Mm-hmm. They said it was the only 2 children, and then, yeah.
So you said at the beginning, and you said a couple of times, that it's not the film you expected to make. You thought it was going to be a more hopeful film.
I thought it would be a film about, I just lost my own mother, so it was more like I wanted to go into how do you as a mother say goodbye to your child when you know you're dying, and then the child would have a hope for a better future, you know. So I thought that kind of that hope for the child would carry this film through. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at what point was there a particular point of revelation for you as a filmmaker where you thought, actually, I'm watching something completely different happening here?
Yeah, when Singanes and Hussein left the children at that orphanage, mm-hmm. I think both me and the photographer, we were crying so much that we could hardly see through our eyes. But it was very hard to navigate in because it had very bad translation, and they went into this willingly, Singanes and Hussein, but it was very hard to stop myself from shouting, stop, 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 there's something completely wrong here. But at that time I didn't have the imagination to experience what was actually being said at the moment. I didn't have any translation on the spot.
So just talk us through the film process then. So you said obviously you had generic translation, yeah, really, rather than specific, and that came later.
Yeah, I had from the beginning on. I presented this. I had to move quickly because the children was about to leave. So I contacted the Danish Film Institute and the Danish broadcaster, and the Danish broadcaster said, "Okay, go ahead. I'll pay for your trip, and then let's see what you bring back." And I brought back this material and said, "Can you see this tragic?" And he was like, "No, but I would like to, you can do it, but I want the Danish angle. Mm-hmm. I don't want the African to take up too much of our prime time, because then people won't watch it." Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, we argue about that later. Just give me the money and I'll continue. And then we had a lot of argument, and I did a standalone documentary about the Danish couple going down, where you also saw Singanes and Hussein, but I couldn't really question, and I wasn't sure what was going on at that moment. So I made this documentary, and it was broadcast on TV2, and it was really touching, and everybody thought it was really, and it had a good viewers. And then I kept on, then I applied for the Danish Film Institute. I said, listen, there's something in this material I need to dive into, and they said, no, you already told the story, and we can't see that there's anything there. So I went on, and then I kept on filming, and I went back to Ethiopia and filmed some more, and I tried several times, both the broadcasters and the Danish Film Institute. But then, when things started to, I thought I had a movie already then, but then when things started to go wrong in Denmark, then the Danish television, they got interested again. And then I could apply, and finally I got the Danish Film Institute on board. And then when they were first on board, then then I could finish the process.
And so you described just then the yourself and the and your colleague kind of in tears at moments. How did you juggle that desire, presumed desire, to intervene versus the desire to keep filming? How do you square that judgment with yourself?
Lots of therapy. It's been the most challenging thing I've ever done. I mean, it's been 5 years of constantly questioning yourself. What's the right thing to do now? And I think everybody knows, as a documentary maker, as a starting point, you shouldn't interfere. And I mean, exactly. And it's a very old dilemma of the war photographer. Should you intervene or should you document what is going on? And if I thought that I could have saved Masio at one point by intervening, I would have done. But I don't know what people think I should have done. There's a lot of, this story is so complex, and this is just 1.5 hours. This process has been going on for 5 years, and to include all that complexity in that movie is, I mean, there's a lot of people who said you should do a movie about the process of doing this movie. And I mean, there's been a lot of fight with the adoptive parents and with psychologists and lawyers and all kinds of things around this. But yes, I could have put down my camera and I could have grabbed Masio and rushed to the car and driven away with her. But I can promise you it would only have lasted 24 hours before the police would have found us, and that I would have been able to do this film. I mean, and also I could have questioned the adoptive parents in their educational methods. I did that. We had very huge argument about that. The whole, I could have told the social welfare, but they already knew, everybody knew. I mean, they were there. You can see who they sent if things go really wrong.
That's the guy you would be complaining to?
Exactly. He's the one handling. There was, at one point, I showed my material to a psychologist, which is known as one of the, she's kind of the leading specialist in post-adoption traumas. I showed my material to her because I needed a second opinion. And she did, she filed a complaint to the social welfare saying there's something completely wrong in this family. Nothing happened. So I don't think what people think would have, if I say I've been filming this family, I think there's something really wrong. So yes, and of course it was hard as a human to watch that, but if I had acted, I wouldn't have been able to, I mean, the people could have complained to are kind of the problem that I'm trying to show. So there was actually, yeah.
And have they seen the film? Have Henrietta and Gert seen the film?
Yes, yes. I would never do it without their showing them first. Yes, they saw the film a couple of weeks before the premiere, and they had no problems with the film. They thought it was hard to watch, to see how sick Masio was. That was what they saw when they saw the film. And she called me the day after and said, "Why did you put in the scene at the dinner table?" And I said I did that to show that this is a dysfunctional family, because I didn't have any scenes. I've been filming for years, and I kept on filming long time after this film you just seen ended, to kind of get some scene that would maybe that could make some kind of understanding for the adoptive parents, some kind of, or maybe they would have some kind of knowledge or a moment of self knowledge or something. But I didn't get it. But she asked me, why did you put it in? I said, because I wanted to show that your family was really dysfunctional and how desperate you were. And she said, okay, yeah, I can see that. And she asked me, why did you put in that I'm saying that I draw a blank? And I'm saying again to show how frustrated you are. And she said, okay, I understand that.
And so what's
and I also showed it to Singanes and Hussein.
Right, okay.
Before the premiere, yeah.
And what was their response?
That was actually not happy, but the worst thing was when I told them before that Marcy was put into an institution. That was the worst. That was when they really reacted very strongly, and with huge regret and blame towards themselves. And you know they don't have that kind of institution in Ethiopia, so actually it was kind of a relief for them to see that, because they kept asking me, but you're hiding something, is he really sick? And I didn't experience Masha as sick at all, but it was, so actually they were like, okay, you know, to see her, and there was also some joy just to see pictures and see movies, to see the children, that they were alive and they were doing good, so it wasn't so hard for them.
Obviously, a lot of the attention in the film and in the family is on Masho, but what about her brother? How's he?
But I haven't had contact with the family for the last year. He's still living in the family. He's coping quite well with the adoption. I'm sure he will have some issues when he grows up, but on the outside or whatever, apparently he's very well behaved.
What's the one thing you want people to take away from the film?
I think I never thought about personally that I never questioned that adoption was the last solution. And I was shocked when I found out the numbers that orphanages are not orphaned. 95 approximately % have living parents. So that kind of turned the whole thing around in my head, that I want to know that there's a living mother and father in the other end, and it's not because it's out of their need, but shouldn't you maybe trying to help them out of their need instead of taking the children? It's like walking past if you pass a beggar on the street, a woman with a child, and she says, I'm starving, I'm dying, I can provide for my child, will you please help me? And you say, yes, oh, that's a cute child, I'll take your child, bye bye. I mean, is that the right thing to do? That's what suddenly, even though you've arrived at some good and caring adoptive parents, that's one thing, and the other thing is with children, when there's so they, even at Europa's age, I mean, is it right to, who owns the right to your story? I mean, don't you have your right to your own story? I mean, it's not like, in Denmark anyway, I don't know how it is in the UK, but in Denmark, it's been like this, you knew just in when you were, if you were at a dinner party, if somebody was adopting, you weren't allowed to question if it was like getting your own child. It was exactly the same, and I don't know how many times I nodded ahead to, it's exactly the same as giving birth, yeah. And, you know, it's like, it's compared to having your own child, and it's not, you're getting somebody else's child, but that doesn't mean that you can't love and take care of it, but it's somebody else's child.
An acknowledgement that there's a story.
Exactly,
that
there's a story behind it.
Yeah. Okay, and I think that's a good point. Arun, I'm going to ask you to, do you want to come up and join us?
Yes.
So Arun is one of the founders of Action, do you want to sit there? Of Against Child Trafficking. Arun, have you seen this film before? And can you just tell us your response to the film, please?
Yeah, I saw this. Is that okay? No,
It's just put it closer to your mouth.
Yeah, no, I had to. I saw the film last year, December, I think, after it was premiered, and yeah, I was shocked. And yeah, I worked before in Ethiopia on these adoption cases, so I knew I could do something, and then it took a while till I just started working on this case.
So tell us what your organisation does and why you founded it.
We are registered in the Netherlands. We are a small NGO. We work against child trafficking and pro-children's rights. And we have researched like 20 adoption cases in the Netherlands, in the field. And I've actually come to the conclusion what the film shows, but I haven't seen it. I mean, I've heard the stories from the parents in Ethiopia, and they're all the same. They're all similar stories. But I didn't see it before, like it's shown in the in the documentary. Because
there will be some people watching this thinking that this is one, a very tragic, but rare story. Is that your experience?
No, it's not rare. It's a very regular story. I met so many parents in Ethiopia whose children, were recruited for adoption in the same manner as we saw in the film. We worked on a Dutch case. Similar story. The parents also had HIV, and in the Dutch case we were able also to undo the adoption in Ethiopia. So that I knew. So that's how we started now working on this case. And while I was driving on to the way to Sinkenesh Hussein, I had also the address of another mother who lost her 2 children in a similar manner. So we met that mother and we took her case up. But this case as such was much easier because the child is living now in a very good foster family, and the foster family was very cooperative. So last week I was in Denmark, Last week I was in Denmark with the mother, and we brought the Ethiopian mother actually to Denmark to visit her child. So you can find these things on our website, and also at least one picture of the reunion. And we have given this mother and also Sinkenesh Hussein now legal aid in Ethiopia to revoke the adoption. I've become their legal representative in Denmark, and I try very hard to reconnect them to Masho, but it is really an uphill battle, and we need your support. We need much more support than we have right now, and we have a little bit now.
Okay, so I think at this point I'm going to open the questions out to the floor. If you could wait until the microphone reaches you. So if I could just have someone to help with the microphone bringing, please. Thank you very much. If you could keep your questions fairly brief, please, so we can get in as many as possible, that would be great. Thank you very much. Yes?
I'm a psychotherapist. I work with broken sibling relationships in adult life. It seems to me that much of what was disturbing Masha was not just that huge displacement, but the separation from her older siblings. And I wondered how those 3 siblings who had remained in Ethiopia had coped with that breach as well.
They're actually coping. They're coping quite well. They are. They think she's the lucky one because she got out to the West.
So they've idealised it as well.
What?
They've idealised it as well.
Yes, that's part of the problem, that they think that, and the big brother, the oldest brother, he says that I would go anytime. I mean, and they think even an institution in Denmark is much better than staying in Ethiopia. So they're actually not as broken as her.
Okay.
Hi. Can you talk a little bit more about Masha and what her problems were? I found it hard to figure out why exactly they were struggling so much, because I didn't see her behaviour kind of as being so difficult.
It's hard to, because I'm not a psychotherapist or a psychologist, I'm just a documentarist, and what I saw in this home is what I've shown. I mean, if I had scenes where she was reacting very outspoken or smashing things, I would have put them in. Or I'm sure she was. I think she was a difficult child. I mean, this. I have 5 myself, and some of them are more difficult than others. And she wasn't very contactful. She wasn't so easy to get in contact with as Robert. From the beginning, that's how I experienced her. And from the beginning, I also had to, even in the village, I mean, I sometimes had to speak very loudly to her to get her, to say stop. She was like, but I don't think she was anything but that was her way. I mean, that's also why I put in the scenes where the biological parents talk about her, because she was an outspoken child, and she has a temper, and she was, I mean, but that doesn't make her wrong or.
I mean, for me, the shocking thing is actually that of everybody there, her reaction seems the most logical reaction. Masha's reaction to what's happened to her seems the most logical reaction to everything that's gone on.
But that's exactly is she sick, or is she behaving very healthy to a sick situation? I mean, it's kind of the question. And I never. I mean, I had to research backwards, because I experienced things, and then I had to go back and say, is this just one standalone case? And I found out that this was very similar. And there's so many cases has popped up, and so many adult adoptees has contacted me, and this behavior is I mean, they recognize so much that pressure they're under to attach to these parents, and how they're kind of, you have to love me, and the kind of jealousy that evokes. I mean, as you see, the adoptive mother, she starts to react almost like a very jealous wife, to smell the clothes, and because she has this huge urge of this child to love her.
And again, as someone who was an orphan, who has gone back and met, gone back and met my birth father, and I know there are some people in the room who've also been described as orphans, and then gone back and met their family, their birth families. Arun, and this whole idea that adoptees are inherently, there's something wrong with them, this idea that you're reacting to that what's the normal reaction is seen as something extraordinary. Is this something that you encounter in your work?
Yeah, I mean, specifically the first Ethiopian case we took actually up in 2006, and it was a very similar case. And then we had this case in the Netherlands, also very similar. And it's just a very healthy reaction of children. And I mean, I have 2 children. If they suddenly would be in another family, wouldn't behave strange, then I think that something would be wrong.
Okay, great. So, question at the back.
Following up from what you guys are discussing, Arun, you're working on the case right now, Masha's case, correct?
Yes.
I wanted to find out if you've been able to assess what she wants to do, like where she would like to go, how she would like to be placed, because there's a lot of people around making decisions or wanting decisions, but what does she want? What's her story?
I don't believe anything, because she is with the authorities, and we're dealing here with child trafficking, in my opinion, because like 15,000 euros something plus minus has exchanged hands in this process. It is also that the parents in Ethiopia, under the concept of adoption in Ethiopia, is completely different than in Denmark. They are readopted in Denmark. So there is a whole, I mean, it's from Ethiopia up to the highest authorities in Denmark who condone that crime. That was one of the, and who are involved. So this should not be exposed too much. So Marshall is now in care in a therapeutic home. She is voluntarily placed. the adoptive parents are involved in the process with her, and the home has to kind of do everything together with the adoptive parents. On 22nd of October, I received a letter addressed to the parents. I'm the representative of the parents, and I forwarded it also, like saying that Marsha doesn't want to have contact. She's doing very fine. She's doing horse riding, which means therapy. She doesn't want to have contact. Also, Think International Hussein have written a very, very, very nice letter to Marsha with photographs. The letter says, the social workers says, kind of, the photographs have been shown to Marsha, but Marsha didn't even want to read the letter. The authorities wanted to, I mean, in the letter, Think International Hussein apologized, really nicely apologized, to say, really, we made a mistake. The social workers, when we had meetings with the social workers, they didn't even want to read out that part to Marsha. Oh. Yeah, so I don't believe anything. I have asked to get reports, to get the medical reports, denied, legally denied. I don't believe anything in this, unless I see Marsha myself.
The social minister called the whole parliament in Denmark after the premiere of the movie, and then they made a investigation, their own investigation in Ethiopia, and then they shut down the specific agency for a while. And now they opened up again after the media attention kind of... they opened up again and they did some small changes, but they didn't do... But their own investigation said that this is really, really wrong. It's ethically not right what is going on, but the adoption agency is still opening and running, and Arun probably knows more about the political aftermath, so he can...
I mean, while they were making the investigation in Denmark, I was in Ethiopia and meeting Think International Hussein, and in the same village many more parents. So I thought I'm going to mess up their investigation and bring 4 mothers to the embassy. So we did that, but that even didn't help. So the report says it's some ethical problems, but the report from the Danish government does not state that there was anything really wrong. They state that the adoption was totally legal. I contest that. But it is very, very difficult to fight, and there is hardly any way for a criminal investigation, because, yeah, we also only have yet part of the papers. It's very difficult to reconstruct what actually happened, and to get, you know, the crime happened in Ethiopia, and to get a criminal investigation going in Ethiopia, very difficult. We tried this in the Dutch case, and we fought the prosecutor in the Dutch case fought the case up to the Supreme Court in Ethiopia, and I mean, we lost it. So I'm not going to try this in this case, because it was and it is something, of course, the UN Convention on the Right of the Child is completely violated. I mean, the child can only, I mean, inter-country adoption is only an option, if at all, if it's really, truly a last option, if the child cannot be cared for in any other suitable manner in the country, and the child could have been easily cared for by their parents himself.
Yes.
Hi, I'm a social worker and a training consultant with the British Association for Adoption and Fostering, and it strikes me that what happened here was there was a little girl who was developing, to all intents and purposes, quite normally, quite well attached, and what happened to her subsequently destroyed her psychologically and emotionally. She has then been pathologized and been told she cannot, clearly she can attach. She attached to her birth family. She has no problems with attaching. Not once through the entire film was the issue of bereavement and grief and loss mentioned for either of these children. And that wasn't addressed on any level, and it's hardly surprising that she had the rage and the grief and the sense of disbelief that wasn't addressed and still hasn't been addressed. And with her brother as well, and to all intents and purposes, not to be disrespectful, but to say, well, he seems to have attached well and he's developing. No, he's gone compliant, he's gone quiet, and he hasn't done anything. He will be reacting.
just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's, I mean, that's I think the key scene in the movie for me is actually the scene where the Sinkenes and Hussein, they are sending off the remaining children to school that morning, because that's just a normal family life, you know, and that's what everybody in Denmark are demonizing, you know, what she came from, that she came from the dark Africa, and she's probably been, that all her demons comes from down there, and that's where she's been destroyed. Oh, and I mean, that's kind of the alternative to her life in Denmark. That's, and I mean, I don't think anybody is in doubt if they had to choose which kind of life they would like to to grow up in, and nobody recognized that what she's lost, both her and Robert, of course.
So we'll go with one here and then one there.
Thanks very much for the film. You've talked about in Denmark not intervening in that situation, but I was wondering about Ethiopia as well. When the biological parents are going from door to door trying to find information, they must have turned to you for some of those answers, and how did you explain your methodology to them?
But I all the time had to balance the loyalty between the Danish parents and the adoptive parents, because both of them kind of let me into the process. So the biological parents, they wanted me to tell everything to the Danish parents, and the Danish parents, they didn't want that sort of contact. So when I went down there, I asked them, because I knew I mean, of course I was questioned. I have like a pile of letters at home about questions of Marcia and Robert. So I went to the adoptive mother and asked her, said, I'm going there, they're gonna ask me. I think you should be the one who tells them what has happened. And then she wrote them a letter. But that didn't satisfy them, because they knew, they're smart people. They knew that I wasn't, I mean, I'm not coming there anymore. I mean, they wanted the legal, the authorized connection to their children. That's, I mean, because, I mean, I was there, yeah, they never knew if every time we said goodbye forever, I never knew if I came back. So, of course, I provided them with the information I was, yeah.
I just want to ask, is this agency still operating?
Yes, very much.
Very much.
Okay, that's a shock. And just wanted to comment on the fact that the parents, the adoptive parents from Denmark, didn't seem even to have had any counselling either in terms of preparation. They didn't even bother to connect with the biological family to ask about Masha and her likes, her dislikes. There was absolutely no getting to know her culturally or individually. So it was sort of doomed from the beginning on that level. And I just found the Danish adoptive parents to be really irresponsible, and also, I'd say, even ignorant. Yeah.
They're actually psychotherapists. And they're both working in homes for neglected children. They are, but I mean, it's tragic comic. But I agree. They had the best will. I mean, the adoptive mother has a hard personality as a character in a film, but she actually had the best will, and I think if she has gotten better counseling, she could have done much better than she's actually doing. Yeah.
Arun, this idea, because it's often said, well, but the adoptive parents are well-meaning, well-intentioned. Is that enough?
It is not enough, and I slightly disagree, because the idea how is it sold, and you said it in the beginning, is this is going to be your own child, and I'm still myself. I'm myself adopted. I'm still looking for bleaching powder. I'm still brown. I didn't become German, yeah. So I mean, that's how I started my work, by trying to find my own mother, and I have an Indian mother, and I was raised by a white mother. Very well. I had very good adoptive parents, but they never. Adoption is sold as an idea to have your own child, and it's really they own it. And I mean, I'm trying now for Sinkenes and Hussein to get in touch with Masha. The adoptive parents could also allow it. I mean, running into a wall. I mean, no, the parents try to get in touch with the child and they cannot see their own child anymore. And I had the same scene last week because the mother which we brought from Ethiopia to Denmark, she has also given 2 children, or 2 of her children were sent to Denmark, and the little child is still in the family. And she was not allowed to see her own baby. And she was not allowed to see the child. How can that be?
Just a quick thing. I mean, obviously the film is set in Ethiopia, and I think Ethiopia adopts or gives up approximately 5,000 children per year, and in the last 5 years has given up 26,000 children, which is more than the rest of the African continent put together. But this isn't just an Ethiopian problem.
No, it's a circus. It's a moving circus. I mean, it started. I mean, it's a long history from the Second World War, or even First World War, where we have inter-country adoption. But then you have it from Korea, then Vietnam War, baby lift, and then Latin America. It's an ongoing issue, and even Germany. We have been sending children out to the United States as well, but we have, in the good old European countries, we have implemented children's rights, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and we do no longer export our children. But this is about to change again. I mean, there's a huge lobby behind it. And, I mean, who's interested can have a look on our website. We have some cases, we have also some studies and some things about that.
Great. Okay, I think we can probably take 2 more, so we're going to take one there.
Can you just tell us what your organisation's called?
I'll say it again.
Yeah, our organization is called Against Child Trafficking, and that is, if you put it in Google, it comes up immediately.
Okay. So we're going to do one here. And
just a very quick question to you as a filmmaker. What do you think the presence of the camera does in this film?
Oh, that's very hard to answer.
But kind of speculatively, you must have thought about, would the scenario change in any ways, or do things happen outside the camera, which is not in the film? A lot of the kind of interesting stuff happen outside the camera space as well.
I film where I include myself as a character. But I felt like in the editing room that I saw it more like it would be like a defense for myself, for my own role in this, and I thought that was not interesting to the whole thing. And I wanted to create a film with the most emotional impact, which I experienced myself, because I was like, do I want to see a film where there's a well-meaning filmmaker who tries to solve the problem, or do I want to end it like where the reality would have ended if I wasn't there, and get people out of the seat to say, we must do something about this? And I thought, yes, I want to do the last thing.
Just kind of quick thing, because as an audience, we are very aware of the camera's presence, because there are various moments you would think, oh my gosh, how is this being filmed?
Yeah.
And this is not, kind of a critique completely about the film, but one is thinking, oh my gosh, how would it be different otherwise as well?
Yeah, I don't know, but they were really they really didn't care about the camera, neither of them, especially the Danish parents, actually so much that sometimes you wanted to say,
do you know
you are aware that I'm present, right? Because please protect yourself just a little bit. And actually we did protect the some of the editors who saw some of the first cut. They thought that I was too nice to the adoptive parents, but that's, yeah, I didn't want to demonize them more than necessarily. So I didn't feel, of course, that's also the scene where we included this in front of the Dan Adopt agency, because of course the camera there is kind of a red flag to the agency as well, and so that's why we had to kind of put in our own presence in the movie to say that we are also part of the adding wheat to the conflict or whatever. So yeah.
Okay. Over here.
I was 6 weeks old. So, that it's not so easy to say with the attachment thing. So I have seen cases where children were adopted at a very young age and gone completely wrong, and I have also seen cases of children, adopted at the age of 8, 9, 10, and that doing quite okay, but everybody has the same patterns of issues, of identity, of roots, of where do I belong to, why am I suddenly in a white family being brown or black, all these things, and they come up and pop up in with different people at different ages. Some must become 50 or 40, 30, some start searching at 10.
Okay, so I'm afraid we're going to have to draw it to a close there. But please, thank you very much for staying. Thank you for a great discussion. And please